But this is what I want to say about the industry. I think this is really interesting that obviously when you're talking about, like rock music and the way that it's progressed, the first thing that you think about is the music itself.
Yeah.
But something that people don't talk about a lot is the music business and how it evolved with it.
Yeah.
Because you think about rock music, it's like it first became like a thing in like the 50s when it was basically just like teenagers that loved Elvis.
Yeah.
And like this is the thing about teenagers. They don't have any money.
Yeah.
So it was like a very big cultural thing, but not really a huge commercial thing yet.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that just, it kind of did boom with Elvis because then, the Colonel started like working him like a slave when he realized like how lucrative, a rock star is,
But then it goes back to what you were saying before. It just keeps getting bigger, bigger. And then we were talking in the Miles Davis episode, there was some point where they realized, okay, a really big rock band can sell out a stadium and make more money in one show than Miles Davis, the greatest jazz player of all time, can make playing jazz clubs multiple shows a night for a week.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting the way that the industry is and the way that it markets it. Because in the 60s, it was all about like peace and love, like our music can change the world, blah, blah, blah. And like that was clearly what they're going for, not only in the music, but in the industry as well.
Yeah.
So you could do something like get 500,000 people to some farm in upstate New York.
Absolutely. And just charge them like $1, $2 each,
Right.
and that's nothing, even back then.
So that was all what was happening in America too. It was like, oh, this is the revolution. We're going to change things, blah, 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 blah. And they're able to really sell and market on that. But then after a couple years, it's like, well, shit hasn't really changed. Which, unfortunately, is pretty much the story of America ever since JFK got assassinated, but we don't have to get into all that. But so now we're in the 70s, and it's like, well, this peace and love shit kind of burned itself out.
Yeah.
So I feel like in the 70s, they were like the industry was also kind of trying to figure out what the big thing was.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big reason why the music in the 70s was so great and so diverse, because they didn't really know what they were going for yet. They were trying a bunch of things out.
Everybody was. Yeah. Yeah. And it was more about the sound.
Exactly.
And then the people just, just happened to have some good looking people, and that was cool and that was great. But those good looking people were about their music, like, you know what I mean? About their sound and stuff. So that was a great thing. And like, Nancy and Ann do talk about like the 80s and going into like the whole image part of it, and how the video kills the radio star, like,
well, this is what I'm saying. I think it's so interesting how it progresses. So 70s, like the industry is still trying to like kind of figure out, what's selling. So they're down to sign whoever.
Yeah.
That if the music is good, and then it would be like, oh, maybe what you do is the next big thing.
Yeah.
Maybe what you do is the next big thing. I don't know. So we're gonna sign a lot of people. We're gonna see what happens. As time goes on, you get into the 80s, and what's happening in America in the 80s is, fucking Reagan, Wall Street, greed is good, just money, consumerism.
Yeah.
So even the music business is like, well, we need everything to be big. We need the biggest songs, the biggest hair, the biggest everything. You know what I mean? So it becomes so commercial, and it becomes such a big business that it really wasn't so much in the 60s and the 70s.
Right.
That now it's like, oh, well, we're going to make the most commercial thing. We're going to sell the most money. We know what it is. This is what it is. Everyone, if you want to make money, you got to look like this. You know what I mean?
And, kind of to be fair, it's like when you watch your band turn 80s, I think that's what a term that we should call them. Like look at Jimmy Page and Robert Plant separately when they turned 80s, early 90s, like that. Like, I'm just like, man, like, what'd you do to our friends?
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, even the Stones, like their comeback in the like mid to late 80s, it didn't really sound, it didn't sound like them. A lot of people, Diana Ross, all these people were coming back, and it was just like, man, like you could just tell it was for the video, and that's kind of sad.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's really more about the industry than anything else, because at that point, and with MTV, it had become so streamlined. Like, this is what we need to do to make money. So you do this, you're gonna sell, and you're gonna make the money.
Yeah.
But it's like the thing that we always talk about. This is a recurring theme on the podcast. Is that the thing that always works the best in the long run is authenticity.
Yeah.
Like, you could change your style in the short run, and it can work out well for you. And it did work out very well for them. I mean, their songs went huge. They had their first #1 song. They had their best-selling album.
They did.
But now here we are, and we think about heart. We don't think about that.
The 80s just wanted more, man. More.
The 80s just all about more. And that's why you think about it now, it's like the only bands from the 80s that are still like big now is like Motley Crue, who was like the top of that shit. They were the absolute peak of that.
They were.
And then like GNR, which was a completely separate thing.
Yeah.
This is what we're saying. Like the bands that still made it from that time were the ones that were doing their own shit. Like Metallica, GNR, they were never doing that. Right. But all those other fucking bands like Rat, Poison, fucking Whitesnake, no one cares about them now. You know what I mean? Like am I out of line?
Call us if you care. Call us.
Yeah, tell us leave a review. Tell us if you give a shit about Poison in 2022. Like, come on. But anyway.